Up for Discussion Live. Hosted by Jeff Sylvia and Shannon Sylvia. Bringing you the hottest topics, the coolest guests, and a live chat, so you can be part of it all. Up for Discussion Live starts now.
All right, here we are, and welcome to the weekly talk show where everything is up for discussion. Live here with me, Jeff, and alongside...
Right here with me, Jeff.
Right here with you.
Are you okay?
And you, the lovely Shannon. What's going on, kid?
Every day. I'm Shannon. That's Jeff.
And now that you're not getting hit by trains, I guess...
I didn't get hit by a train yesterday.
Wow. Yesterday was like Murphy's Law. Anything and everything that could go wrong definitely did go wrong.
Yeah,
and, yeah.
Kind of a weird day.
What happened to you, kid? You're going to talk about your public service announcement. This is very important.
Public service announcement. Well, the city of Leominster needs to find out why people are not notified on Marguerite Ave when a train is coming at them at 1,000 miles an hour. I don't like to be notified when there's a train in front of me about 50 feet away and it's blowing its horn as I'm crossing the tracks. So someone's going to get on that. I'm not the only person that happened to. Yeah, kind of frightening.
Wow. You know, we say that and we joke around about it, but man, if that really happened to you, you can actually see your life flash before your eyes there.
I mean, the top was down in the car. Wow. I couldn't have had better hearing if I tried. It wasn't a matter of not hearing it because you just couldn't hear it. It wasn't like, not like in the movies where it's barreling towards you. I didn't hear a thing until that horn went off and turned my head to see it just around the corner from me, and I just couldn't believe it. So really needs to be some kind of railroad crossing notification, especially in one of the biggest hills in Leominster. When you come up that hill, you're just on the railroad tracks, so there's not a lot of time to react. I did post something on Facebook earlier, and that happened also to another friend of mine.
That's right.
She said at that very same intersection, so... Yeah, could have been 2 problems yesterday, and apparently a third in the past. So this is an ongoing problem. So if anybody cares out there in Leominster, feel free to. I don't know. I don't even know what department.
It's right atop of Marguerite Ave, right?
Yeah. Okay. Who do you call when there's a problem with the railroad?
Well, I mean, in all seriousness, they should have a flag guy there. They should have somebody.
Well, that's what Dean Mazzarella said. Like, wasn't there a warning flag dude out there? I'm like, no, obviously I wouldn't have just driven right around him. Right. That would have caught my attention if anybody was saying, hello, big train coming. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, so that was interesting and definitely warranted some alcoholic beverages when I walked through the door.
And there's your public service announcement. We want you guys all to be safe.
Yeah, this has been sponsored by Wyman's.
Glad you're here joining us. We're glad to be here joining you. We want to welcome everybody watching and listening on your handheld mobile devices.
Excellent.
Around the world and on television. Of course, we want to say a special hello to our friends over at LATV and HCTV, which is in Hudson, New Hampshire. Mm-hmm. And now, Shannon, we are online radio with BNE.
BNE?
The Broadcast Network Entertainment.
Oh.
We're going to be simulcast there, too. So hello to all of our friends out there as well. Now, we want to make sure you guys stay in touch with us. So what do? We've got this really cool new code. You guys can like us on Facebook, and all you got to do is go to the Play Store, download yourself a QR reader, and you have those anyway because everything now has that type of code. And all you got to do is walk up to your television now or your computer, scan that little guy. I'm going to leave it up there, so you don't have to do it right away. You can do it at your leisure. We're not going to say do it now, but you can do it sometime soon. And then you can just follow us on Facebook. What do you think about that, Shannon? That's pretty cool, huh?
I do like that. You're very technologically savvy.
We're getting there. Because we do want to hear from you guys outside of the show, not only on our Facebook page, but also on our live studio call-in number, which is also available 24/7 for your comments, your suggestions, your concerns. Maybe you might want to sing a joke. Maybe you have a profound statement of some kind. And somebody that takes that very, very seriously, Shannon, and is very, let's say, regular with hanging out with us. We ought to check in and see what Jay's teeth is thinking.
Excellent.
Hello, Jeff and Shannon. JT from LA. Well, seems that JT has joined the boycott. This is the second Friday that I haven't shopped at Market Basket. I've taken the side of the employees. They want Arthur T back, and they want all the people that got fired back. They showed on the news a reporter trying to ask Arthur S. some questions before he was getting into an elevator, and this guy comes off, to me, as real cold. He looks like Gordon Gekko of Wall Street. Remember Gordon Gekko? Mm-mm. He was the one that said, greed, for lack of a better word, is good. But not only is it good, but now it seems that it's legal. Well, JT will not feed the greed. Comes a time in your life you got to take a stand or you'll fall for anything. And I've taken a stand, and so many other shoppers have. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but there's going to be a winner and a loser in this. And I just hope we as shoppers, I hope we are winners. Bye-bye.
Wow, very insightful tonight.
Yeah, JT's not going to feed the greed.
He's so serious now. JT, what is going on with you?
We got to get him to sing. I think he's going to sing next week.
I know, I missed that. I'll never know what he's singing, ever, because we had to talk about this.
No, he's
not
different,
from my generation.
Different genre of music, that's for sure.
But I do miss the singing and the making me laugh, but now you're just making me think so much about grocery shopping.
Well, it's important, and this is something that is taking a national stand here and getting national attention because it's a non-union company.
And so a billion years ago, they say they were coming up with a resolution. Where is it?
Yeah, I know. They're close. It's funny because I talked to, we'll keep his name out of it, but I talked to one of the, let's call him high-level managers over there at Market Basket, and who told me that they're still in negotiation, but they are very, very close. They have the right people at the table. They have the deal on the table. They've made some progress, and this has been a bad divorce, Shannon, as you know, for a long time.
They lost a lot of customers permanently because they're pissed off about this whole thing. Permanently.
Well, we hope that they can get it squared away and get it squared away soon, because there's a lot of people, I'm sure, that want to get back to work. We're glad that you guys are joining us. We want to say hello, of course, to our special sponsor, Lemonster Storage Solutions, who supports the hell out of us. And if you want to find out more about them, you can give them a call at 978-466-8887, or you can visit them online at lemonstersstoragesolutions.com. Now, we do have one more special hello to say, and we do have a birthday in the house. A little belated. It was yesterday, but we kind of crashed and burned yesterday. So we want to say a special hello to one of our biggest fans, Andrew, who turned 9 years old.
Our little joke teller.
Andrew brings the A-game when he brings the jokes to the show, and we're glad to have him. And we're very thrilled that he keeps joining us. So we want to make sure that he knows we're thinking of him and wish him a very, very, very happy birthday. And how cool is it to be the subject of books written by your dad? How cool is that?
Well, we're the subject of Ryan Buell's book.
Yeah, well, he's not our dad. He's not our dad, though. He's not our dad.
No, I know. That is like the ultimate coolest thing. If my dad ever wrote about me, I'd be tickled shitless. That's really sweet. I would like a copy of one of these books. Rusty, can we get some so that we can give them away on the show as gifts?
Maybe.
Maybe. I'll send you mine if you send me yours.
There you go. All right, we got a lot to get to tonight. We have a story about the 9-year-old girl. Very, very tragic story coming out of Arizona, which has left one person dead. And we're talking about a 9-year-old girl learning to shoot a submarine gun, accidentally killed her instructor at a shooting range when the weapon recoiled over her shoulder, according to Arizona authorities. The instructor, 39-year-old Charles Avaca, died at the hospital late Monday night after he was shot in the head. The Mojave County Sheriff's Office said the girl was with her parents. The three reside in New Jersey. The website of Bullets and Burgers, the shooting range where the incident happened, says children between the ages of 8 and 17 can shoot a weapon if accompanied by a parent or guardian. I'm going to read that again. Children between the ages of 8 and 17 can shoot a weapon if accompanied by a parent or guardian. We'll get to that in just a minute. Police
Yep.
said the weapon was an Uzi, an Israeli-made submachine gun that some experts say was the wrong choice of firepower in instructing a child. You think? Representatives of the gun range have declined our requests for comment at this time. Now, we are going to share the video with you. I will let you know that it does not show the fatality, but it does show the minutes and seconds leading up to the end of life, unfortunately, for 39-year-old Charles Vaca. Check.
No, we have to keep that held in. Otherwise, the gun won't fire, okay? This hand, grab right there. There you go, just like that. Okay, turn this leg forward. There you go, just like that. All right, go ahead and give me one shot. All right. All right, full out of...
And that is where things went horribly wrong. As you can see, you can hear the gun discharging and recoiling. And unfortunately, not a good decision, Shannon, I must say. Of all the things that make me scratch my head, this is probably one I think that probably has me scratching a little bit extra. First of all, what kind of parents bring their 8 or 9-year-old to a gun range to begin with? We live in the day and age, Shannon, where, there is a serious issue about guns in schools and kids dying and the whole thing. You can't even go into a school nowadays and point a finger like a gun or have a play gun without getting expelled. But here we have parents that want to bring their 9-year-old to the shooting range.
Yeah, and we were talking about this over there, over our coffee this morning, and we were saying you got to be 18 to vote, 21 to buy alcohol, but you can shoot a lethal weapon at 8 years old at this gun range.
What is wrong with this
I don't
picture?
understand. You can't even smoke until you're 18 years old.
Right.
Something has to change. Yes, it was an accident, but that poor 9-year-old girl is going to live with that every day for the rest of her life.
Oh, no doubt
It's
about
because her parents brought her to a driving range.
and it's
She's
like
not strong
everybody's
enough
saying,
to hold an Uzi.
You should have nobody should have ever put that little child in that position.
Nope.
It's certainly not
They
the
don't need
child's
to
fault.
protect themselves with guns, so there's no need whatsoever to learn how to shoot one unless you're hunting and you had. Now, this is. I mean, that's gonna outrage a whole other conversation. But said that she was under the supervision of her parents. What difference did that make? They weren't right there when it happened. They weren't holding her. They weren't standing next to her. It had nothing to do with her parents being there whatsoever. They're sitting in the stands or standing nearby. Great. How is that going to protect your kid or protect somebody nearby?
Well, I guess what they mean is that under the permission of their parents, not necessarily the direct supervision.
It's
because
irrelevant.
Even if the supervision is coming from, the person that's instructing, he's the only one really qualified to be that close to the kid. Now, I will tell you that shame on Arizona. Shame on the laws in Arizona. And it's not a federal law yet, I guess, to where there's some sort of age limit here. To me, it's mind-boggling. I don't even know why we're talking about an 8-year-old with an Uzi in their hand voluntarily given to them by their parents to learn how to shoot.
It's ridiculous.
Maybe at 8 years old, you take the kid out with the BB gun or the .22 and you go out in the woods and you do some target shooting or something like that. But an Uzi?
BB gun, a BB gun. Okay, so you could shoot your finger off with the BB gun, but you can't. That's just ridiculous. Yeah. And Wiggleman's in the chat saying, a .22 rifle maybe if you're instructing or hunting. But I mean, I'm not going to knock children hunting because I know it's a way of life for some people in certain parts of the country.
Of course it is.
But you never hear about hunting accidents with 8 or 9-year-olds ever.
No.
Not like this. This is
Definitely
ridiculous. It was a completely inexperienced little girl in pink shorts, could not handle the weight of that weapon. They should never have put it in her hands.
And not for nothing. I mean, if you're shooting for the first time, maybe you should try something a little bit easier to handle.
Well, no kidding, right?
I mean, it's hard enough to operate a smaller weapon with not a lot of kick.
Yeah.
But geez, an Uzi, that thing is
ridiculous.
It's got quite a kick to it. So
ridiculous. It's just sad.
We just really, really hope that this creates, God, I can't believe that I'm even saying this in this day and age, with some sort of awareness on, and I'm not against having a weapon. I'm certainly not against that amendment that allows us to carry and have firearms and protect ourselves. What I am against is stupidity. And, Kids don't drive cars for a reason. Kids don't drink alcohol for a reason. Kids aren't involved in our wars for a reason, nor are they allowed to vote or smoke cigarettes. Perhaps it would be a good idea.
Yep.
Just saying it, maybe a good idea not to put automatic weapons in their hands, at least until they're of some age, as an adolescent, 13, 14, 15 years old, whatever it is. But boy, 8 years old, 9 years old, that's a tough one to fathom.
Innocent kid. I mean, she didn't go there with the intent of killing somebody. We all know that. But what an awful feeling that girl's going to have every day for the rest of her life. It was a total accident, but that girl doesn't deserve that. And of course, the guy didn't deserve what happened to him either. Tragic accident. Could have been prevented.
Nope.
I really think there should be a weight limit. Just like you can't even ride the roller coaster unless you're a certain height, but you can be 9 years old.
Good point.
And hold an Uzi.
Good point. And here we are.
What's wrong with people?
In a world that's so politically correct. We want to cross every T, dot every I, and we want to make sure that, things are so politically correct nowadays. But we're going to put a weapon in the hands
for fun
of an 8-year-old.
Yeah.
My goodness. I think we have a call coming in from the 410 area code. Go ahead. You're on with Jeff and Shannon. Hello.
Hello. How are you, Jeff?
Hey, Big Jim. Thanks for checking in with us. We're going to step out, guys. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to hit the Who Does That with Shannon. And right after that, we're going to get into our topic tonight, which is talking about good cop, bad cop. When is it crossing the line when the folks that are there supposedly to protect you need protection against? Stick around, guys. You're watching Up for Discussion live here on ParaRockTV.com and on the mothership, LATV. We'll be right back after this.
Up for Discussion with Jeff and Shannon Sylvia. We'll be right back. Stay tuned.
Up for Discussion live with Jeff and Shannon is brought to you in part by Bailey's Bar and Grill, Sasquatch Coffee, and Village Pizza.
And now back to Up for Discussion right here on Pararock TV.
Hear that music, it can only mean one thing. It's that segment of the program when Shannon Sylvia asks, who does that? And now, ladies and gentlemen, I give you Shannon Sylvia.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in for my segment, finally. The Who Does That portion of the show, where I pick 3 really, really, really true stories where you're going to scratch your head going, seriously, who does that? In the little soundbite you're hearing, yes, that's me saying, who does that?
Who does that?
That's me. Every week. All right. First story comes out of Berlin. That would be Germany, not Massachusetts.
Berlin.
A German court says a landlady was within her rights to evict a man for persistently using a squeaky sex swing in his apartment late at night and using it as a sex prop. The court in Munich said Friday the unidentified man installed the very old chain swing in his apartment in 2012, regularly disturbing his neighbors with it, with sexual, athletic, and squeaky noises late into the night, causing multiple complaints.
Wow.
Pam Anderson was probably by his bedside there because she is so into those swings. I saw it on a TV show.
Well, nobody uses the swings anymore. They use the hydraulic thing, don't they?
I don't even know. I don't know. We have
just seen if you're paying attention.
Yeah, we use our ceiling fan.
There we go.
And noted in his rental agreement included a clause to be
Trampoline.
quiet between 10 p.m. and 7 a.m., which he isn't doing. And upholding the landlady's decision to evict him, the court focused on the tenant's use of the swing set, saying Use late at night would no longer correspond to normal rental use and therefore must not be tolerated as socially acceptable.
Okay.
He is a victim.
Who does that?
Because of a sex swing.
He's a victim.
Yeah, he probably, I bet you in his defense, he's trying to say that it was just a regular swing for enjoyment. But anytime after 10 p.m., it's not the case.
Yeah.
All right. Second story comes from Europe. Jamie and Emily Farrow, newlyweds from Lincolnshire, England. After the nuptials on August 1st, the pair handed their keys over to friends to look after their cats while they were on their honeymoon. That's what friends do for people.
That's true.
Upon their return from a glorious holiday in Italy, the Farrows found out that the prankster pals had arranged a noteworthy welcome in lieu of their wedding in the way of 14,000 Post-it notes.
Those are Post-it
covering
notes.
the first floor of their house. The sticky pieces covered the entire entryway, living room, and kitchen.
Nice.
The hidden camera captured the reactions of the new Mr. and Mrs. Farrow. Our living room has hot glass panels in the door, so we could see as soon as we got inside what they had done. And then we saw the camera. The 29-year-old tells the Daily Mail. The notes were all over the living room walls and everything. I think that in a few weeks we'll still be finding the odd one about. It had taken their friends 8 hours to pull off the sticky act. As for what mischief makers had to say about it, they let the notes speak for themselves, with a message left on the television that read, "So sorry."
Oh,
the couple say they expected a surprise upon arrival. After all, the same group of friends pranked another couple returning home from a secret wedding by filling their home with 3,000 balloons.
Nice.
It took the newlyweds 2.5 hours to remove all the sticky notes.
Wow.
Who does that?
That's wicked funny.
Wicked cool. A for effort on that
You know,
one.
if it only took you 8 hours, don't you think you would continue on with more rooms in the house, including the bathroom and bedroom?
Really?
Because it'd be like, well, that was only 8 hours.
Had days to do that.
Well, doesn't this bring you back, Jeff, to when my mother went away on her cruise and she left me a note in
that's
every
right.
room, several
Everywhere.
notes
Yeah.
on every door about how to take care of the house.
Yeah.
So we were going to retaliate with notes absolutely everywhere. Just stupid sayings all over them. But
we'll get our opportunity.
we didn't do it.
Obscure reference, Bruce Almighty.
Bruce Almighty, I know.
Right?
I know. Great movie.
Yeah.
Love that movie.
Okay.
Again, nothing in the United States going on worthy of making my segment. So this next one is about Australia. And this is one about a Australian hospital that just recently declared 200 patients dead, notified their families when the patients weren't dead.
Oh. Oh.
Sydney, great place, kind of a big metropolitan tourist attraction. You think the hospitals were up to date? An Australian hospital apologizes on Thursday after mistakenly sending out death notices for 200 of its very much alive patients. Austin Hospital in Australia's second most populous city of Melbourne erroneously killed off the patients when it faxed death notices to their family doctors. Wow. Ouch. The notices were the result of an inadvertent change, advertent. Inadvertent. What does that mean?
Advertent?
Advertent?
Inadvertent?
Oh, my God. I've never read that word. Inadvertent change.
Inadvertent. Like mistakenly send something inadvertently
I don't
to
think I've ever
somebody.
said that word before, so now I know.
Okay.
It made a change to the templates the hospital sends to the
We're
doctors.
live, we're learning.
We do learn here. It's a learning channel, just like Mike Lear's show.
That's right.
Once a patient has been discharged, this template goes out. So 200 patients were discharged, but yet kind of discharged for real. We apologized unreservedly to the affected clinics, who for the most part were very understanding about the error. Patient care had not been affected. But the Australian Medical Association said the error was unacceptable, potentially distressing to family doctors, while an opposition lawmaker said it was symptomatic of an overworked healthcare system.
Wow.
Who does that?
Wow.
So they just go, sorry, we made a mistake. God, I wish I could.
Sorry, you're dead, but you're not dead.
Yeah.
What the hell? Right?
So that's a pretty bad problem.
Wow. Yeah, that could be a problem. I mean, if you're pronounced dead and maybe you're getting like benefits or something. Maybe you're getting some
yeah,
help with
maybe they're
insurance.
starting to get benefits.
And
they're
all
not
of
even
a
dead.
no, all of a sudden the benefits stop. Imagine if somebody was
Unbelievable.
on disability or somebody was getting medical help with their bills, and
Right.
all of a sudden you're dead. The benefits stop, and now you got to prove that you're alive. Imagine
bizarre
that.
story.
Bizarre
So
story is
thank
true.
you for United States. You stayed out of trouble this week.
We did. The United States was unscathed this week, except for a lot
It's usually
going on
Florida or
in the
Missouri.
United States. We do want to jump in here, and what I'm going to show you guys now is a video, and I'm going to preclude this by saying that the men and women of law enforcement that put those uniforms on every single day are heroes. Those folks go out of their way to unselfishly put their lives on the line every single day for us. And unfortunately, Shannon, as in any organization, there are good people and there are not good people. And unfortunately, there seems to be a lot of awareness now because of social media, because of YouTube, things like that, to where things can be edited down to where, the good name of the police officer, I believe, is being somewhat tarnished these days. So
Right.
we're going to play a little clip and we're going to get right into this. Stick around and watch this.
Oh.
Hold on, I'll fix that. Wow, look at that. And what we're seeing there is the officer's partner actually pulling them out. This is I believe, a 9 or 10-year-old child that was shot with a stun gun and left permanently brain dead. Again, this is when things go horribly wrong. And I will say it again, these are video clips. We can't say what happened before or after, leading up to this.
Yeah.
All
So
we
many.
see is the bad part. And unfortunately, we're going to see the worst of the worst. Wow.
Do they not
there
think,
you see.
do they not know that the cameras are
Well, that's the thing. I mean, there you see some
I-
examples of what you're seeing every day because you can't escape it. I mean, everything you do is on YouTube, and somebody has a cell phone, pointed at you these days, filming you. So we want to hear from you. The call-in number is 323-902-6661. This is your opportunity to talk. And joining us on the line from the Baltimore County Sheriff's Department, Mr. Jim Jones. Thank you so much for joining us.
No, thank you for having me on. Appreciate it, guys.
Well, what I want to ask you straight up, you're in law enforcement, and I did have some conversations that I'm going to share with the audience as well. How are you trained in the academy? What is protocol when in terms of being threatened? And the situation in Ferguson, there's many situations out there where the perpetrator is coming at the police officer, assaulting the police officer, making contact with the police officer. How are you trained in the academy, and what is the protocol for protecting yourself in terms of a threat?
Well, one thing, what happened in Ferguson, what I understand, the officer had a fractured eye socket from a guy. You know how big I am. I'm 6'4". I'm 300 some pounds. I'm built like a freaking Coca-Cola machine. You have a guy that's coming in the squad car window at you and trying to get at your weapon. You're going to resort to anything that you can to try to save your life. Your intention is to get home at the end of the night, take the uniform off there. You really don't want to hurt anybody else, but there is a point where you have to draw that line. Now, when I went through the Sheriff's Academy back 18 years ago, we went through rigorous training, defensive tactics. We were shocked with 50,000 volts. I mean, we had to shock ourselves. And but when you go with the firearms qualification, you're there to shoot center mass, and it's to stop the threat. Mm-hmm. Now, it's what's called the use of force continuum. You start off with mere presence of just walking into the scene itself, and then it escalates all the way up to deadly force. But that within that range, with proper training, that each officer is using that, and there is a strict protocol with each department. And I know with my department that the use of force continuum, you have to justify what you did. You have to articulate the means, and when you go in there and you do this, you better be on the ball now. Of course, it's things happen within a millisecond.
Right.
I mean, it's not like what you see on TV. Especially like what happens when I went out there and when I started wont years ago. Now I'm back on patrol. When you go out there and you do these things, and you walk in situations, especially when you serve protective orders, and you're going to take somebody's child away from them, and they can go from this nice, cutesy little, 5'6" woman to a raving lunatic in a millisecond because you're taking their kid away from them.
That's right.
Now, somebody with my size, now you don't know what's going on with it. Now, when it comes to hand-edged weapons, now when people talk about, well, why don't they shoot, like over Germany, why don't they just shoot him in the leg if this person has a knife? Well, what they don't tell you and the public, that with a person who is goal-oriented, basically that they're either on drugs or they have some type of mental disorder, they have a high pain threshold. Within 21 feet, they can still stab you no matter which way you move.
Yep.
Anything from 21 feet and less, they will stab you with that knife.
Now, you hit on a really good point when you use the term center mass. Center mass is a term that I've heard used by a couple of police officers that I talked to today in terms of shooting. And what I was told when I inquired, I talked to a gentleman at the Massachusetts State Police Department. I spoke to a couple of retired police officers. I also spoke to a current Chicago police officer. And everyone was in unison when they talk about shooting center mass. And when in terms of a moving target, especially during a threat situation, the stuff you see on TV about shooting the leg or taking them out at the kneecap, that's all BS. I mean, that's stuff you see on TV. It is very, very difficult, if not next to impossible, to hit a moving target to begin with. So that term center mass is more or less used in terms of you're hitting anything you can to slow the threat down. Isn't that correct?
That's correct. I mean, when we go through firearms qualification, we have a bare minimum of score that we have, which is the there are certain parts that actually has like pistol marksman that they'll have up to like a 65 or 70%. We have to qualify at least 75% or better in order for qualifications. And one thing with this, when you shoot center mass, now we carry 40 calibers in our department. We used to carry 45 calibers when I first started. That's what I prefer. And when you hit somebody with a 45, they're actually going to go down. If this department out there in Ferguson, if they talk about the amount of rounds that is expelled, if they use 9mm, 9mm go through things. They don't stop. They don't stop the threat. So you're looking at something that the size of the caliber of the weapon, and also when you're under a stressful situation, we go through 2 qualifications every year with firearms. The regular firearms qualification for your proficiency, and then we have what's called a stress course. Now, in the state of Maryland, it's optional for each department whether they want to have it or not. And by 2017, it's going to be mandatory for every department in the state of Maryland to have a stress course. Okay. And basically, you run through scenarios. Now, you do what's called FATS training. Now, that's the one where you go in there with it's like a live-action video game. They change scenarios up when you walk in. It's basically, if you walk into a crime scene or go into an armed robbery progress and such as that. But also, we actually fire live rounds on the range, and you have certain positions you have to take cover for. And also, you go in with go into a live pop-up scenario. You're given a certain scenario, go in there. You're doing it also with a shotgun. So, I mean, you also work with a partner, and you're supposed to talk with one another, and you go through these different things.
Now, you touch on training, which is very important, and there's been a lot of discussion about training, and if training can help some of these situations that you're discussing. But also, what's also needs to be mentioned are the outside of these situations, and we're not just taking a snapshot of the Ferguson situation or any situation to where a police officer discharges a weapon and kills somebody. There's a lot of situations out there that are outside of that, and where cops are just acting outside of the law themselves. And up on the screen now is an example of a police officer just pepper spraying a group of students during a sit-in. Another example is a very famous case out of Tallahassee, the Christina West case, where that shows in the video a woman handcuffed being driven to the ground head first into the cement and being stomped on by police officers. And there's a lot of indistinction these days between, protect and serve versus excessive force. Now, I will say that the majority of police officers out there are great police officers. Their goal every day is to not pull out that weapon and not have to ever use it, God forbid. But when you get in a situation to where cops are abusive of power, and we just had one the other day where an innocent woman was dragged out of her car because of a mistake. Dispatch got it right. The police officer that was pulling the vehicle over got it wrong. And here's a woman being dragged out of her car and more or less put through the ringer, if you will. There was a kid in Utah just on the news today that was shot for not obeying the police officer's command. Come to find out, the kid's got earbuds in. So, there's a lot of mistakes going on, but there's also a lot of brutality. And when police cross the line, how do you feel as law enforcement when you hear about things like this? And recently, a Lowell police officer just killed somebody drunk driving, multiple offense drunk driving. So I guess what I'm saying is in any profession, nobody's perfect. You're never going to find a spotless profession where nobody has issues, has problems. But, and it's certainly understandable, Jim, that in your profession, it's very easy to see a police officer snap. I mean, how could you put yourself in a more stressful situation every day than a life or death situation? You're certainly not coming up to any happy customers, no matter where you're doing your business, and everything's a threat. So how do you feel as law enforcement when you hear about bad cops, when you hear about cops crossing the line and behaving outside of what was trained in the academy?
Well, there's bad apples in every aspect of it out there. But as far as I'm concerned with many of these officers, I mean, there are things that there are certain situations that just, you have the right commander, the squad sergeant should be seeing signs of the act of the officer themselves. I know with my sergeant, they have a tight control over the ship, and if you have a bad day, whatever it is, hey, why don't you take time and go home, relax, do something. You have the police themselves within that, and it's like here in Maryland, we have with Baltimore City Police Department, they have a civilian review board, which is strictly civilians. It's outside law enforcement, but they keep an eye on what the police department does in each individual case that may come up. It's almost like a grand jury.
Internal affairs and things like that, right?
Even here in Baltimore County, there's also our grand juries will actually review cases such as that, what an officer does. There's many other signs with that, because there are times where an officer does snap. We have the shortest lifespan of any individual that's in the working world. I mean, we have a bad diet. We have the changing of the shifts. We have a bad sleep pattern. A lot of us suffer from PTSD. We get into a situation. I remember when the first time when I had an elderly gentleman who committed suicide in front of me. There was, tried to talk him out of it. He shot himself because he was basically diagnosed with Alzheimer's, and he wasn't going to be a burden on someone else. Mm-hmm. And I was ordered by my captain to go talk to the police psychologist in order to make sure that I was okay.
Now, let me paint a fine line for you here, Jim, and I'm going to throw a question at you. I'm going to share a little tidbit that I was shared with today from a Massachusetts state trooper, and a good friend of mine, actually, that I know very, very well. He pulled over a car. It was 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he pulled over the car, noticed there was one individual driving that car. And as he walked up to that individual, he, of course, instructed license and registration. Make sure that you pull out your license and registration. And at that time, the kid went and stuck his hand between his legs. So the Massachusetts State Police officer immediately reached in and pulled him out of the car. Just absolutely reached in and pulled him out of the car. So, it's come to find out that the kid was reaching for his wallet under the seat. So, the moral of the story and the question that I have for you is, how do you determine in that split second of time, here he is, a cop on a routine call, walking up,
Right.
license registration, the first move the kid makes, and again, it's 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, he starts to stick his hand down between the seat and between his legs and below the seat. So this particular trooper reached in, grabbed him, pulled him out of the car, put him on the ground, and subdued him that way, cuffed him, and controlled the situation.
Right.
My question, it's not really a question, it's more of an observation, that is the fine line. Because, number one, could have been a gun under that seat. Not many people keep their wallet under the seat. Most people keep their wallet either in the glove box or in the armrest or wherever it is. So,
True.
How lucky, first of all, was that kid who didn't have a weapon, and could have got probably a gun either pulled on him or worse, because he didn't communicate during, the officer approaching the vehicle saying, hey, I'm going to reach down and I'm going to get my wallet that's down. And he just did it inadvertently, probably didn't have a lot of experience with the police. But boy, was he lucky that he didn't get, a couple rounds unloaded into him. And how lucky was the police officer for not doing that and being able to reach in, drag him out. But that is an absolute split-second life and death decision that you guys must make. How many times a day or a month do you guys make decisions like that?
It's daily. This is daily. When you're out on the street and you're out there by yourself, my closest backup to me would be maybe 5 to 10 miles.
Yep.
If I'm lucky.
That's him. He said his closest backup could be 25, 30 miles away.
Part of my territory. I'm out there at least a good 10 to 15 minutes away from the closest backup I have.
Yeah.
So you have to be very vigilant now with that officer. Now, speaking of what I would do if I was in this situation, what I would have done was that I would have instructed him to keep his hands where I could see them. And if he says he had something that it was down by the seat, I would ask him, if you have no problem to step out, let me do a quick pat down for my personal safety, and I would have him sit in the back of my patrol car, which I have a cage car.
Sure.
I would have him sit back there. I'm going to notify that you're not under arrest, but I'm doing this for my own personal safety. If they are compliant, they're going to do this.
Yep.
And say, look, if it's sit down behind the seat there, may I be able to go in there and ask permission to go in there and look for it? Now, if this kid was squirrely, if he had taken it, if there was an odor of an alcoholic beverage, or if somebody has about 20 of these pine trees hanging from their rearview mirror, that sends signals off to me that they have something to hide. Usually that's because they have dope in the car.
Mm-hmm.
They're trying to cover up the scent in that. Or if there's bags of coffee laying everywhere inside the car, that's another key indicator. When you go in there like that, I mean, if they're going to comply, if they passively comply with you, you're not going to have a problem. Right. But again, that's a split second with that officer. And state troopers go through, especially here in Maryland, they're out there. Especially around the Baltimore Beltway, you have over 400 miles of road on the Baltimore Beltway, which they cover. And there's only maybe 2 state troopers per shift.
Yep.
That work that by themselves.
Yep.
And what they go through when they pull these cars over, I mean, each individual case is of course, it's going to be different. But the main thing of it is, it's like it's better than me, because you may have 2 or 3 guys in the car, and something may be squirrely, and your closest backup is, if you're lucky, may get there maybe 5 or 10 minutes. If you're lucky with who's on shift, working with other agencies.
And by then it could be too late.
Our radios don't communicate with state police or with other sheriff's departments in other jurisdictions that may border those roads. So it's a split decision by that officer, and he has to rely on that training. I'm not making excuses for them, but the thing of it is, it's a fight or flight situation.
It sure
and
is.
You're going to come up against that. I mean, it's God bless the military. I mean, that they have to go through the same type of training that we do. It's that quick second where it's going to be a matter of life and death. I mean, this is basically a war, but it's on the home front.
And how does it most of the time now, you got to think with everybody having a camera, everybody's having stuff on YouTube. That split second that an officer may think about, geez, I might get sued. I might lose my house. My family might starve. I might lose my job. I've got to second guess myself in my training. Boy, if that ever comes into play, that can change the game a lot.
Definitely. I mean, when you look at police involved shootings, you may go through a trial, because we actually had an assault case which with one of our fellow deputies off duty, actually apprehended a potential armed robbery that was taking place before he was getting his hair cut, and it happened in Baltimore City. And they went through a whole trial. He was already taken, and basically found the facts was not sustained. I mean, he was in the right. I mean, he detailed everything in the report. All the witnesses corroborated everything, and then the individual themselves, they turned around and they wanted to sue for pain and suffering because they went to the hospital. Mm-hmm. Well, if they weren't in there trying to commit the crime to begin with, none of this would have ever happened. But see, the trouble with many of the officers, when you go in there and you do do a lot of this, these different things that goes on, you have this situation that goes on, that where you have people that when you unfortunately have to make that quick decision to take and shoot, you be shot or the perpetrator's going to be shot.
Yep.
And if that happens, you're not only are you be up for criminal charges, either that, but also you're going to be sued civilly by the family, and also you can face departmental charges, which could mean that you could lose your job. And of course, if you lose a job in law enforcement, no one is going to hire you to begin with.
And that's the thing, though. At least you've gone home to your family, and again, where you guys, the men and women of law enforcement, put their lives on the line every single day. That's really the issue. I think when it comes down to it, at the end of the day, if there's a situation where you're threatening a police officer, there's a good chance you could be shot. And unfortunately, in today's world, there's a lot of whack jobs out there that are not only disobeying the law, but just have a total disregard for law enforcement altogether. And, when it comes down to situations where you have kids that are unarmed, that are being shot and killed by police officers, unfortunately, those are the stories that you're hearing. You're not hearing all the good stories. And unfortunately, I think the news and the media, and of course social media, YouTube and Facebook and all of that, really does a number on you guys as far as painting a picture. I mean, you could take anything and make it the hottest topic of the week. And unfortunately, right now, police brutality and lethal force used by law enforcement is the hot button. And I think it's very sad that they're turning this into a racial situation when in terms of Ferguson. There's good white cops, black cops, there's white gangs, there's black gangs, there's people of all races and colors that abide by the law or not abide by the law. And I think the situations are very, very specific to the individuals. And I also think that if you're in law enforcement, you have the right and the duty, to protect yourself. You're in charge. There isn't a cop alive, and one that I've talked to in all the years of my life that ever wants to go to work and use that weapon. They're 90% counselors and 10% soldiers. And when it comes down to coming into a situation, their job is to control that situation, place somebody in custody, and let the judge figure it out. Let the court system, let the due process figure out, what happens from there. Because think about it. You don't have a single happy customer. Everybody that you're arresting or controlling or whatever, they're going to plead to you they're the attorney and you're the judge that's going to set them free. And it doesn't work that way. People just don't understand that. And they make you guys larger than life, but at the same time, they don't understand the job. And the job is what you're specifically trained for. The job is to bring the bad guys in, let the due process figure it out, and at the end of the day, go home to your families and be able to do it again tomorrow.
That's very true. Now, the sad fact of it is that we have three generations that are so codependent on having everyone else take care of them. They're not responsible for their actions. They feel that they're entitled to a lot of things from other people, and they don't want to accept the individual responsibility. Mm-hmm. You know, if I screwed up when I was a kid, I got the belt. My father did that. My father hit me only one time, and I actually deserve it. And I thank that man to this day. He's been going for 10 years. But I thank him to this day that he did that. My mother was the actual disciplinarian. She was a little 5'6" West Virginia woman, and let me tell you, you get that little hillbilly going like that, she'd tear you up big time.
Well, let me ask you while I have you here. Let me ask you. We're talking about parents, and we're talking about how to bring up your children, and it does all start at home. It certainly does, with every situation, with the guns in school, with the situations going on. How do you feel about this 9-year-old? We were talking about it earlier, the 9-year-old that discharged the Uzi and killed her instructor. How do you feel about a 9-year-old being taken to a gun range and given an Uzi to learn how to shoot?
Well, not to take and rock anybody's world, but I actually shot a 12-gauge shotgun at 8 years old by my father, and he stood behind me. Now, then the instructor, what they should have done was, if they were going to be doing anything, I mean, the instructor was probably lackadaisical. From what I've seen of the photographs, he's standing back alongside of her. Now, if he was to take a child that young to go out there and shoot, yes, I say that you want to teach your children proper respect of firearms. I mean, that's the whole thing. You know, they watch too much television or play these video games, and they think that guns are toys, and guns are not toys. Mm-hmm. And I'm one of the biggest Second Amendment supporters there is out there. But the fact of the matter is that this man that unfortunately lost his life, he should not. If it was me, I wouldn't have taken her out there and actually let her handle something like that.
Right.
A 22 maybe a BB gun or something like that, depending upon the size of the individual. But someone that's got to be firing a 9mm round, moving at over 1,300 feet per second, and especially if it's going to be on full auto, I mean, really, I mean, that's rather
poor judgment.
It is poor judgment.
It's just absolutely poor judgment. It really is.
And
you touched on it earlier. I mean, to say that a 9-year-old kid could shoot maybe a BB gun or a 22 or something light, that, you go out and you're out with your uncle or your grandfather or your dad, and you're out in the woods and you're popping off a 22, learning what a kick's like and learning to hit a tin can here or there. That's one thing. But hey, you're going to shoot for the first time. We're going to give you an Uzi, and that's a little bit crazy to me. That makes absolutely no sense. And I'm sad that the kid was put in that situation to begin with. But I do think that I think the reflection should fall back on the parents, 100%. They should have never, ever put that kid in that situation.
It's one thing if you're going to teach your child about that gun safety, but the same instance also, you have to accept the responsibility of that child. I mean, you're not going to put an 8-year-old behind the wheel of a large automobile. Now,
That's right. And we were saying that earlier.
That's the thing.
Kids that age can't vote. You can't go to war. You can't drink. You can't buy a pack of cigarettes. You can't operate an automobile. You probably shouldn't have an Uzi in your hand at 8 years old. I mean, to me, it's just absolute common sense.
That's the whole point. I mean, it all boils down to individual responsibility. Who's going to take responsibility for their kids? And unfortunately, we're becoming the mothers and fathers of many of these kids. And when I was a juvenile court liaison up until a few months ago, I've seen many of these kids come to the system, and they cycle through going into the adult system, because when you hear the parents come in there and the way that they carry themselves in front of the court, when they show disrespect of walking in with a cut-off T-shirt and holes in their jeans, and they're showing disrespect to juvenile masters or to the judges in the circuit court themselves. That shows right there that whole cycle continues until when you break that cycle, and hopefully that the kid will wise up, get themselves out of the situation, much like a Dr. Ben Carson, who we know from Johns Hopkins in Baltimore. He stabbed a kid when he grew up in the projects up in the Bronx. He admitted to it. But he got himself out of that situation. Everyone has an opportunity.
Yep,
but it's a matter of actually accepting that individual responsibility and going out there and actually trying to perform better than the last generation. That's what we're supposed to do. That's the way my father and my mother taught me, that, hey, we're better off than what our parents were, but we want you to be better off than what we were.
Sure. And showing respect for law enforcement, showing respect for, automatic, well, not automatic, but weapons in general, for guns in general. Certainly they have a place in society. They're not going anywhere. If you take guns away, then only bad guys will have guns, so they definitely have a place in our society. But there is a responsibility and certainly you have to be responsible and you have to be mature. I mean, you have to be able to direct yourself in a way that society, you're not going to hurt anybody, number one. You're not going to hurt yourself and those around you. Every safety needs to be the number one concern. They're going overboard in schools about it. I think it should be across the board. And unfortunately, we're running out of time here. But I do want to thank you so much for joining us, Jim. It's nice to have the insight of law enforcement and, being able to talk to quite a few police officers today. There was a lot of common thread there when it came to, how to defend yourself and what is a threat and how it happens. I mean, it's not like it is on television, folks, and it certainly is something that happens in a split second. Neither of us sitting here watching, listening today would ever want to be put in a situation where they would have to choose between taking another individual's life or their own. That's something that these men and women that put these uniforms on, Shannon, every single day they go out and they put their lives on the line for us. And to me, they're absolute heroes. And certainly, I just think that, and wrapping this thing up, it's a very, very, very tough subject all the way around, because you have folks out there that are protecting us, you have folks out there that are putting their lives on the line, but at the same time, they're getting a bad rap. And I don't think they deserve it. I think that it shouldn't be made a racial card. I think it's something that should be, taken case by case. And that's what the due process is for. Do not let, I think the message of the evening is not to let the media sway you when it comes to these cases, because all you see is stuff that's out of context. Allow the due process to happen, allow the system, allow internal affairs, allow the attorneys to do their jobs, allow the judges to do their jobs, and allow the men and women of law enforcement the safety that you and I have. And certainly they're needed and respected and definitely part of our society that even in the new age, very, very important for us to get all that. But we're definitely out of time. I want to thank Jim Jones from the Baltimore Police Department for joining us. I want to thank all of you for joining us around the world on your handheld mobile devices, and our friendly folks over there at LA TV. Thank you so much all for joining us. And until next week, good night.
Bye, guys.